Well, of course, adolescence is not easy. We were all young once. And
right.
one of the biggest challenges young people have is finding ways to connect with others.
Students are now readjusting to being back in the classroom after months of online learning, and getting their social skills together are a priority. Joining us now to discuss the challenges and some tips on building a network of friends, psychologist David Swanson and 7th graders David Levman from Portola Middle School in Tarzana and Julie Bronzosian from Sierra Madre Middle School in Pasadena. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being with us today. We're going to start with you, Julie. What's been the biggest challenge in connecting with peers? Now that you're back in school, I understand there's been some nervousness, which is, of course, understandable.
I think the biggest challenge was that I felt really anxious because we had been learning online for around 2 years, and that's a very long period of time for a 6th grader. And it really held back my communication skills, which really sucked because you couldn't, I was really nervous and I couldn't really say anything because I would get really whoa, I can't really speak because I was just really anxious. So I think that's the case that would happen with online school, especially when you're a 5th grader going into 6th grade, and now I'm in 7th grade. But yeah.
Well, you sure are eloquent and articulate here on the show right now. So just to let you know, I'm just letting you know that, okay? You sound great right now. David Levman from Portola Middle School in Tarzana. Have you ever had a hard time starting a conversation with your peers?
Yeah, I have been. It was hard starting a conversation with my peers because sometimes my peers are talking about a completely different subject, and I just might walk up to them and say something random, and they'll just all look at me, and it's sometimes super tough connecting with them because sometimes you don't know what they're interested in or yeah.
You know, it's really interesting, David, because my niece, who is 13 years old right now, actually told me the exact same thing this weekend when she was over at my house. She said it's hard to start a conversation when kids, they look at me like I'm crazy or like I'm weird about talking about something, you know? How do you get over that?
Well, I think we have to keep in mind that these kids have been home for a year. If you walked into a room and I was crying and you asked me what was wrong and I said nothing, you wouldn't believe me. And that's because over 70% of communication is nonverbal. And for the last year, these kids have been online, missing out on a lot of fluency work for nonverbal communication. So now they're starting to kind of get back into the groove of things, and they're starting to get that feedback and figure it all out again. This is the first year where I probably have about 6 kids in my practice who have gone away to college depressed because they've forgotten how to socialize.
So, Doctor, what are some tips that make connecting with your peers easier again?
Well, Julie and David, I want to make it really simple and plain for you, just so you get this. I mean, most of the time we feel the pressure to walk into a social group, and we lead with our mouth. We start by saying something, and that's not the right way to go. So I want you to think of the hours method. It's OURS. The first thing you want to do is to observe. Who's in this group? What are they doing, right? The second thing is use your ears, understand what they're talking about. Then think, can I relate to anything that these people are talking about? And if so, that's when you speak. So if they're talking about going to Magic Mountain, that's when you could pitch in with a ride that you liked at Magic Mountain, as opposed to trying to force yourself to say something and jump in with an awkward statement.
Well, Doctor, what if you can't relate?
It's okay to practice the big 3. And that is, I'm going to sit there in the group and I'm going to make eye contact. I'm going to nod every once in a while, and I'm going to smile. A lot of times the most popular kid in the group is quiet. It's not saying anything. But that's because he's allowed to follow that fun, special rule, which is he knows that when kids around him have fun, when they feel good about themselves, they're going to want to spend more time with them. So simply using the big 3 like that, the eye contact, nodding, and smiling, is a good way to socialize with your peers without even having to say anything.
And these are tips adults can use too, I got to tell you that. Julie, I want to go back to you. You participated in a program called Calibrate Connections. How is a structured program like that different from real-life social interactions?
I think Calibrate is great because at first I was a little bit confused on on it because I thought you would have to go deep into what you'll be saying about your personal life. But it's actually really fun because you get to the adults get to tell you what to say, and they start up a conversation, and if you're not comfortable you do not have to say anything. And I think that is really great that they did that, and I really appreciate that because it's really good for mental health because a lot of kids struggle with mental health recently in these years and with this virtual stuff, online things. And that's what I think Calibrate is very helpful for me. And I think it was very unique of what they did.
And David, are you happy to be back in school again and doing Taekwondo again?
Yes, I am very happy to be back at school and doing Taekwondo again because we have been sitting on virtual learning for like super long time, about a year and a half now. And I think we're all starting to like get kind of bored of it, and it's really not like the real way to like learn and stuff. Yeah.
Well, you two are doing a great job. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
you speak very clearly. You portray, you're much older than what you appear.
Exactly.
Definitely, at least up here for sure.
Definitely. Right? Thank you so much, all David, and Julie. Thank you so much for being
Thanks
with
for
us
being
today.
with us today. All right.